What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction.
Let's get
so
it.
excited about this video. If you're new to us
And we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
The 77% is in South Africa this week, and we're here to investigate a phenomenon that's experienced really across the continent, the idea of a black tax. What is it? What does it mean? And what could it mean for the future? Luckily for us, we have a really cool crowd here who are going to help us answer that question. And I want to begin with Bonga Kumako. She actually wrote extensively about this. It was your thesis, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe just set the tone for us. What is this black tax, and is it exclusive to people in the black race?
Liz, hold on, wait. I can't even get my words out. For her to write a thesis on this topic, it must really be crucial. Okay, now y'all have, this topic has come up before, about 2 weeks ago. And y'all know on the channel we compare and contrast. And we was telling y'all we don't have this in our culture, and we was asking y'all to explain what it is. So after reading all of y'all comments, we have like a form of it, but it's not embedded in our culture like it is with you guys.
Yeah, I would say it's not like an emergency thingy.
No,
I feel like for them it's from what we've heard and what we read, it's more like an allowance sort of, like every day, not day, but like week maybe. Y'all please
like
let us know.
for the rest of the life.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. We're gonna get deep into it. But for us, I feel like it's more so like when you hit that certain age, when you start working and you can pay bills, then a parent would probably want you to help out around the house.
Yeah.
Now I can't say that for every house in the black culture, but from where I'm from, like in my home, I remember when I hit a certain age, they wanted me to help out, kind of get that adult learning stage going underneath my belt.
And not understand that, but some families abuse it because
that is true. Yeah.
This is just me. This is, I'm very biased on this topic. I feel like if a minor is in school, that's the focus. That's what the focus should be.
As it should.
If they have a part-time job, let them go get some sneakers and stuff. I'm not trying to tell nobody how to parent their children. So I'm going to just cut it right there.
Right.
But we have that, and then we also have, just a helping hand. Like if let's say a cousin is in a bind, they're going to call around and ask for help. But we don't have like an expectation of every time Joe and Susie may get paid, they got to hand out money to mama. We don't have
I don't know, but we're going to see. Let's dive deep into it and see what they say.
Oh, black tax is such the big elephant in the room when it comes to South Africa, when it comes to the African continent as a whole. So we use black tax as a colloquial term to describe the money that is forked out by young professionals to help at home. Basically, in a nutshell, that is black tax.
Is it exclusive to black people, or is it people of color, or is it experienced across all, spectrums?
It's been said that it is not exclusive to black people. However, statistics have shown that it is predominant in the black community more than in white communities and the rest of other races.
Okay. So we have a group of young professionals here, and I just want to see by show of hands, how many of you have experienced what we're talking about, this black tax, the idea that you pay back to your family? Yeah? Oh, gosh, you sound so exhausted saying it.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so tell me about it. How does it affect you?
No, I feel like personally, actually, it does make me at some point feel better because I do feel like I am giving back. But the conflict that sometimes it can actually turn to sometimes raise, it's really just something that's a concern. I do personally feel like I'm challenged.
Okay, so Sia, you also raised your hand. Can you tell me how it affects you on a regular basis? Like when you get your money at the end of the month, what are you thinking?
When I get my money at the end of the month, I'm thinking like I have fees to pay, I have rent to pay.
But whose fees are you paying?
My fees for school. But then at the same time, you're like, oh no, I still have to give it back money to my family at home. And then now you have to go through your wallet and see how much money do you have left. Because obviously there's a certain money they want you to give, but they're not going to tell you. Because sometimes they feel like it's too little, so you have to give more. But sometimes you don't have that more. Because from what I do, you don't always have that money to give money in. But you're like, okay, it's my family, let me help out. But sometimes you give because you have to, not because you want to. So that actually affects us in some way.
Okay, I want to go to Kohotsi, who's right here. I think we'd describe him as a social commentator. Is this a responsibility or is it a burden?
It really depends on how you want to look at it. I often have this idea of if you call something a tax, it has this negative connotation, right? And does helping your family have a negative connotation? So if you're giving money back to your family because they need that money, is that a bad thing or a good thing, right? Most people would say it's a good thing. But the tax aspect is the idea that you as a young person who's finally getting that opportunity, getting your first paycheck, are not allowed to contribute fully to your own development. So I don't know if you can look at it as a good or bad thing. I don't think anyone in this room would say helping my family is a bad thing in any particular respect. The bad aspect is there's a failure in our society that says that government hasn't done enough, right, to assist people in getting out of the situation that they're in. And because of that, there's this extra burden on this post-1994 democratic generation to say, we know you're already suffering, but you must suffer even more because we haven't figured out how to boost this economy yet.
Okay, so right now it's sounding rather depressing, and it's also sounding like it's a moral issue. So coming back to you, Bonga, we're talking about it being a black tax, and you did say earlier it's...
Oh, man. Okay.
Okay, so that's loaded. Like, I do understand, wanting to help, having to help your family. I do understand that.
Yeah, of course.
I'm a first generation college graduate.
Shout out.
The degree that I have. Degrees that I have. So I understand that. And I understand, wanting to look back and helping. But where I am grateful in my family, they all told me, take care of yourself.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Don't try to reach back for nobody. Don't try to, of course, when opening doors, but financially.
Yeah. I mean, finances are always a sticky topic, actually, though. Because when you are young and you're making your first income, you get that money and you want to do things with your money, or you probably just want to save it because you see money for the first time.
Right.
And then oftentimes, I believe that can become an exhaustion whenever you're having to just constantly give it up, and all the time. Now, pitching in the house, I understand that, but at some point, it's like, that child is going to get exhausted with the responsibility of having to keep pouring back into it like that.
Yeah, especially if they just moved out on their own.
Oh, if they move out, they still have to pay?
Yeah. They got their own bills and their own fees.
Okay. She said that, the lady who said when she go to school. And yeah.
Oof.
Not exclusive to the black community, but why is it overly affected by this? We're talking about poverty, but it affects everyone. So why is it that this demographic here is the worst affected?
I think it's the worst affected because of our history as black people. I mean, if you look at it in a South African context, we can go as far as the colonization, we can go as far as apartheid. But the thing is, we are dealing with the nuances that happened in the apartheid era, and it's affecting us now. I'll give you an example. A professional right now in South Africa, you're probably the first generation to graduate in your family. You're probably the first one to get a decent job, what they call a decent job. So the family is basically looking up to you to assist.
Okay, let me come back to these young professionals, because I keep hearing words like have to, forced to, not allowed to. But somebody watching from Europe might think, but you can just say no.
Saying no is hard, because the first thing they're going to tell you is that we made you who you are. So at some point, you kind of owe us. We're not telling you, but you wouldn't be here without us. So you also think of that, oh yeah, my family did this and this and this and that. The least I can do is give back. But now, you do it for about 3 months. Then they're going to expect that pay every single month from you, whether you have it or not. That's why this is a bad thing at some point. It's a good thing to give back, but they make it a bad thing.
So I wanna ask, the parents out there, even if you have kids, like, do the parents or, for instance, the children's grandparents still look for that handout?
Oh, okay.
And maybe it's not even a handout, because sometimes people come in the comment section, they want to, it's a tax. They got to correct it. They got to make it as accurate as possible. So do they still look for that tax? That's what I'm asking. You know what I'm saying? Because that's loaded. Like you said, that is loaded.
Now listen, again, I'm all for helping family. I want my family to be the best that they can be. But whether you have it or not, so if I don't have it, I gotta go find it.
I think here, some people call that you're being used, like an ATM.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Every second you got money, you have to pass it out. Type stuff, Yes, sir.
having expectations from you.
So obviously there's a huge financial burden here, but I know that it also has psychological and sometimes emotional pressure. And you have, you're nodding.
Yes, it can cause you a huge financial burden, especially when you find yourself going to the bank to go ask for a loan in order to give them back home so that they can do things with those money so that they can live with it. The moment you take a loan because of black tax, that's when for me it becomes a burden. It is a burden already, but having to repay a loan again because of somebody else, that's when you start to, it can cause depression. Some people have experienced depression because of black tax. Yes, I know a friend who has been severely depressed and has collapsed at work because of it. When you think that you are working so hard, but you yourself, you have nothing to show for it. You see, then you'll find that we are a group of people, maybe we are aged 22, we're working the same job, somebody has a car, some have an apartment, you have nothing to show for it. But you are at work every day from 8 till 5. But that's when they ask you, what are you doing with your money? Then you just...
What are you doing with your money? This is a question that I hear a lot. So Kohotsi, what does this do to the social structure, the social fabric of a nation such as this one?
Yeah, it starts taking it apart very slowly but surely. So the commentary that eventually feels like it's a burden to give back is this idea that you as an individual can't contribute back to our society enough. You can't contribute back to your family enough. If you choose not to pay, then you're not a good child, right? You're not being that the number one child who went to university for the first time. The entire community is trusting you. The entire community believes that you're going to be the savior for everyone. And once that goes away, that hope that a community can get out of its situation starts falling apart. I mean, you could say it's overburdened, but it is a marker, right? In a society that is unequal as it is, when someone has absolutely nothing and they, for the first time in their entire lives, can say, I can go to Woolworths today. Woolworths is a fancy supermarket here. For the first time in their lives, they can go and buy groceries, not wondering that these groceries will wipe out your bank account. It's a huge motivational factor. To have that being taken away from you every month as a society will start tearing that society apart in one way or another.
Okay. Let's come back to Dr. Pokana here.
Okay, now I understand what he meant by the government wasn't helping them. And I feel like us in other countries, such as in the United States, our society is privileged. I know what's going on right now. Please don't bring it up.
Right.
Okay? Our society is privileged with all of the social programs that we have. A lot of us have peace of mind of, our grandmother is this age, they don't work, their husband passed away, or our grandfather, whoever passed away. But they have these programs in place where we know that they're covered. They have their Social Security, they have their pension, they have, food stamps if they need it, they have senior care, they have all these different programs.
Correct.
That's why when we're watching these videos, we make sure to be sensitive of the culture, and we try to educate ourselves as much as possible on the history and, the present day, I don't want to choose the wrong word, but the present day topics, I'm going to say subjects.
There we go.
Right, of what's going on, because we get so privileged in our thinking, and I'm speaking off of camera, and we automatically think just because we have this here, they have that there. And I don't know if they have that, so that's where y'all come in. Right,
yeah. Definitely a good question to ask, too, because oftentimes if they're going through all of this with black tax, is there anything they can lean on for their financial lifestyles, and so they can, live a lifestyle that is comfortable for them instead of having to just work a 9 to 5, 24 hours, and then give it up every second of the day whenever you finish getting paid.
Right.
It is difficult, you know what I'm saying? So
we will all be paying black tax if we didn't have social programs.
I'm saying.
Everybody.
So that we can look at the long-term effects of this. So we're creating a cycle. Some of these people, perhaps they will expect their children to take care of them?
Exactly. The point that I'm foreseeing here is we will end up perpetuating poverty. So the fact that they are sharing with the family members will create a situation where they end up getting to the retirement age and they didn't save enough, they didn't have for the next generation. And what they do, they turn back to the coming generation and say, look, my income was used to support you. Now I have nothing. This is my time for you to start supporting me. This is why we speak about the cycle. But this is becoming like a cultural issue. It is an economic issue. It's also a moral obligation. Listen to them. You have received, and now it is your time to give back. And that is the cycle. But we will speak more, then we need to try to find some solution to the problem.
All right. So, Bonga, let me come back to you.
Yeah, so I see what's going on here. At the end of the day, the facts are the facts. Your parents brought you into this world.
Right.
They fed you, clothed you, bathed you until you was able to walk on your own and think for yourself. That duty to be back and pay your respects to them will always be your duty. And at the end of the day, mine will always be straight no matter what they ask for. You know what I'm saying? But it's just an expression on how it's being explained when it comes to just the dollar by itself. You know what I'm saying? Because if my parents going to raise me and have me be the best man I'm supposed to be, I want to be there at their days whenever they need me the most as well too. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that's the only thing that's getting me right now is just the expression of how they have to go to a job, work it, and then pay it back, and then it pass on to the next generation if it don't collect correctly.
Right.
You know?
It will pass on. But the thing is, the person who goes to college, university, get in their profession, you know, they have their first checks and all that, and then they start bringing it back. That person it'll be hard for them to grow, you know, if they always have to send back.
Well,
depending on their job.
Well, hold on, time out. Because if I'm not mistaken, haven't we heard a few people say that they would leave their village, get a job, go to school, right, and get a degree or whatnot, and then come back and then help build their village up more?
Yeah.
Is that kind of the same
Especially
when it comes with black? Yeah, is that the same with black tax? Because
I do know that they send money home because
they do send money home, but as a sense of coming back to help build it up as well.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes they go out just to get the knowledge, the base work, and then they come back and they, like, you know, some of them, they're really mad rich. They would build a mansion, move their family in, but they would never be able to see the house maybe once a year. So, I don't know.
I don't have to speak to that one.
Yeah, it's like when you think about it, it gets a little deeper than that, you know, than them just having to work and go back and pay the house.
Yeah, I just honestly think that is... I don't know. I don't want to speak from a privileged place because I was going to say, baby, what a government.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
Hey, you're supposed to be over the people.
No, exactly.
Helping the people.
But I think they did speak about it. They said a lot already.
Yeah.
But I think they did say something concerning what the government has done as well. The
older gentleman, he spoke more to... He gave a broader perspective in my eyes. Like they used all the money to take care of you and your upbringing, and now they don't have much left, so they need you.
It trickles down to the next child,
right?
The next child,
and you can't just cut it off because your people do need you.
Exactly, 100%.
And that's why I say, what a government.
Is it an economic issue or is it a cultural issue? Is it an African thing or is it just something we placed on ourselves?
I think it's more of a cultural issue. As Africans, we are relating it to the Ubuntu concept. You know, you get help and then you help. Now it comes to a point where you don't have the ability to help. Now that's the pressure that black tax sort of stems from. So it's vastly a cultural issue. The expectancy from our parents at home. For example, if I'm getting paid 20,000 at work, my mother would know that I'm getting paid 20,000, right?
Do you? By the way, let me just interrupt you. Do we always tell our parents the honest truth about how much we're making?
No. We do not at all. And that's another issue. We are not honest. Hence, we have this burden. But for example, if my mother knew that I have 20K coming into my wallet every month, then there's that expectancy. I need to have at least 30% of that salary. But she does not understand that I'm living in Joburg, or I'm living in Durban in the city. I have bills. Besides just having to fork out, I have bills. And probably I'm a student also. On top of that, I might still have debt from university that I still need to pay off because I do not have funds to go to school because she couldn't afford. So there's all those dynamics and pressures that come into play. When you look at the cultural aspect, when you start working, yes, there's an expectancy that you need to be helping at home. That's the first responsibility that you obtain as a black South African or African child, is to help back from home. Now the pressure is, when do you start buying your own property? When do you start buying your own car?
President Ramaphosa might be looking at this interview, which of course he does because he watches DW.
We about to hear about the princess.
Yo, hold on. I just been around 10 off the wrist. So I got a question for the parents. I think most of the parents, yeah. Like, so do the parents sometimes feel like they don't have to ask and the children just make it their responsibility to come back and help? Like, do anybody have that type of story?
When is the conversation?
Or maybe when is the conversation? That's a good question, too.
I don't know. Because it may not have been money, but I have had expectations placed on me.
I think it's always when it comes to siblings. It's like watch your brother, watch your sister.
Oh, that's in the house. I'm talking about as adults.
Oh, as adult? Okay, yeah.
And child is to help back from home. Now the pressure is, when do you start buying your own property? When do you start buying your own car?
President Ramaphosa might be looking at this interview, which of course he does because he watches DW, and he might say, but what about the Black economic empowerment? What about all these initiatives that have been placed to empower the Black community? Where is that going?
Those are placed, but they're not even working, because so far the changes that we've seen are little. They always promise this and this and that, but when it's time to deliver, they never do it. So now, yes, he's at home watching, so he'd be like, okay, let me try and change that. But then immediately when he gets something bigger than this in his eyes, he's going to change his thing and say, this should go to this instead of this. So far, this is not important. Let me try putting it in this. So it's all up to us what we do. Because our government has let us down several times, so we can't say we're depending on them. Those BEE have been put into place, but we haven't seen anything working.
I'm still persisting on this. Why not demand more from your leaders? It doesn't necessarily have to be BEE. Ask for a bigger pension. Ask for,
I think systems are there to assist, whether it's youth empowerment, whether it's Black empowerment, but the systems don't get to us. There's a problem somewhere in the middle. I don't want to say corruption. I don't want to say, but there's a sense of the people who get more are sort of the elite or the elected. I don't know how to phrase that, but it doesn't get to us as the youth. You know, we apply. I don't know how many people can apply for funding. I can start a business today and apply for funding and never get funding for the next 3 years. But the money is there, the budget is there. We hear it every year when there's a budget speech, as a new president elected, they say this amount has been placed for youth empowerment, but it never gets to us. So where does the money go?
So what do we do then? We're saying that our politicians are not listening to us, our parents are less than understanding. Where do we go from here? Are we stuck forever?
So I like the comments that have been made, right? But at some point we have to take our life into our own hands and say government is tapped out. Government is spending the most amount of our biggest budget line item in government is social grants. There's about 16 million people who are getting social grants in the country. The tax base of the country is so small and is already taxed out. So you can't get more money out of government. So the question is, to the point there, how do you become creative as a young person? So one way is, do you have to pay your Black tax every single month?
Can you opt out in September and in November?
Well, I feel that you can't really opt out from it because, for example, with my culture, while you're still in primary school, you will be told that your first salary, you bring it home as it is because it needs to be reported to the ancestors that now the child is employed and blah, blah, blah. And then your parents are the ones who are going to give you your transport money and for whatever that you're going to need just for that month. And then afterwards, you have to know that every month when you get paid, this is how much you bring home. So for some other kids, you grow up with that. And as you grow older and have your own kids, you also expect the same because you believe that there's blessings coming from that. So it's something that's not going to end. And it's a cycle that's going to keep going on and on. I feel that Black tax will never end.
Very interesting points, by the way. Black tax, according to this lady, and I'm not sure if you were able to hear, she argues that it will never end. And it's because you can't say no to your parents. So do we deserve it? Do we deserve to be paying?
I like her answer because she viewed it as a blessing. But I do see it, everybody else fed up.
Yeah, and she did say that she don't think it's never going to end. For one, is because it's the children who's impacted first. So once you're impacted as a child, you got to understand that whole mindset is there, stuck. You know what I'm saying? And then when you get older, what we like to call it, you have to unlearn stuff. And I don't know too many people that would be willing to just unlearn something that has been so, deeply rooted in their culture that makes sense to them. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's like that.
This tax?
We don't deserve it, and I often say that we are born into it. And unfortunately, at this point in time, I'm glad that we've identified the problem and we are trying to seek solutions on how to resolve it. But at this point, the only solution that we can probably come up with is to be able to say no, which is the difficult part because we cannot say no.
What happens if you say no? Right. Really, tell me, what happens if you say no? Who has tried to say no? Who's tried? Let me hear from someone who hasn't spoken. Have you ever tried to say no?
I tried to say no, but then your parents will disown you if you say no. Because they will tell you, Hore, we have raised you, we paid for you, for your fees and all that, but then why would you do that? Why don't you pay us back in a way? So they will disown you.
Okay, yeah. So fear of being disowned. Any other comments from this side? Yeah.
What actually happened to me is that I said no for the first time in my life when I refused to pay black tax. And what happened is I live with my sister, right? So my sister, she's the one who took over the house after our parents died. So she I would say I was banished.
Hold up, wait a minute. He said he was banished.
Yeah, he said he was banished.
So once your parents pass away, you still gotta pay the black tax?
But to who?
Okay, this is deeper than what we thought.
Yeah. Let's see what he's saying.
Somehow in the family, I would call my aunties, I would call my uncles. I would get comments such as, "What's your problem? What's with you? Has Joburg eaten you? Are you still thinking of your home as you would think of it when you were younger? What's your problem? Return back home. There's no need for you to be in Joburg anymore. There's no point for you working because now it's like you've turned back on us, right? Yeah.
So it's a matter of who are you working for if not us. If we've made you need to assist us. And the point of saying no, we're not saying say no completely and not pay at all or not help out at all, but have due restrictions. If you say I can only help with 1,000 a month, that's the only thing I can afford, then that's what you pay every month. You need to be able to have honest conversations with your family, whether it's your parents or your sisters, and say I cannot afford beyond this. And that's being honest, because now you're trying to basically plan your own finances. If you're trying to save, then you need to say no, I can only send 1,000 at home, 1,000 rand at home, and the rest I have to do 1, 2, and 3. So that's being honest, so that your family sees that I don't just have 20,000 just to spare. This money has responsibilities. When it comes through, there are responsibilities that I need to take care of, including taking care of home.
Okay. Now,
the saddest part is even love is starting to be questioned too.
Love is being questioned.
Like that's the thing, because of now it goes to the effect of that. Okay, yes, you are spending your incomes this much or however you're helping, you are touching the family in this way and that way, but then I think the level of satisfaction that is demanded through black tax is also starting to affect the love that is within there and the bond within there, because of it does at some point resonate with the concept of love being questioned from then on.
So how do we break this cycle? If it's impossible to say no, if the government is saying not really, then what do we do?
Families will understand if you sit down with them and you explain to them, because when I raised the issue,
we just heard that families are not understanding.
The issue of financial literacy, I'm an African, an economist. I also contribute. It is not only a South African problem, it is an African problem. We all contribute. But if you cannot contribute and your finances don't allow you, that's why I say don't be irresponsible by going and contracting debt. What you have to do is there will be favorable times where you have money that you can now send to your family. Now I have a message for the young professional. All they need to know that life has a cycle. So there is a cycle where you get your first job, you start accumulating income, and then there will be a time where you have to consolidate that income, and then there will be a time where you will retire and start spending that income. Now, if you only focus on black tax, sending money to your family, and you are not taking care of those 3 phases, you will end up not accumulating income, not consolidating income. But what income are we going to spend when you retire?
I mean,
you're going to need some black tax.
But don't that... but don't they add up to what they've been saying that they can't necessarily tell them no? Because that first check comes in, they gotta collect it, and then they're expecting that much. Now, if you do tell them no, it's not them saying that I don't want to ever have to pay. It's just I have to handle some business. But wouldn't that create confusion? Because now you're not paying the amount that they're expecting. You're only paying what you can. You get what I'm saying? So I understand what he's saying, but in the scope of a parent and a child sitting down, I just see a little confusion between that because it's like a demand. Right. It's like you have to pay it no matter what.
I'm trying to
pulling the loan out is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like even pulling the loan, so you have to make that payment. So I don't see
a whole nother payment.
Sitting down, and then the whole group said that they don't even want them to know how much they're making exactly.
Child, listen.
See what I'm saying? So
I'm trying to place myself there, paying South African bills. I don't know how much it is. Plus paying black tax, plus trying to put money to the side for my black tax when I get there.
Yeah. Because it's a mindset. You've learned it as you've grown, as from a child to an adult.
Ooh. Yeah. It depends because the lady who viewed it as a blessing, it seems like it's cultural. It's like how I'm viewing it as an American. Y'all know we're discussing this topic with respect.
Yeah, okay? Definitely, 100%.
We ain't trying to say, oh, y'all should do this, y'all should do this. It's a culture study.
Yeah, if you made it to this part of the video and you heard that part, please leave a like because I mean, we here with it. We here.
Right, we here. Okay, so it seems like it's so embedded in the culture. The one lady,
the blessing,
to where it's just like a christening. For a baby, when a baby's born, you do the christening. I don't know if y'all do that.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, do the christening. It sounds like a part of a tradition.
Basically,
like it's the tradition. That's why she said she don't think it's going anywhere.
Right.
But for everybody else, the guy who his sister told him it's time for you to come back home. Why are you in Joburg?
Right, because he ain't paying no more. He said no.
It's deep.
Yeah.
And it seems like every family has different levels of expectations there.
Yeah.
So these are the key issues. So when I speak about irresponsibility is that we need to think about financial planning and we need to have a very good relationship with money. But the key point is affordability. Don't send money when you cannot afford. That is a no for me.
I heard someone here sucking their teeth. I believe it was you. Do you agree with what the doctor is saying?
With their parents?
I'll hold it for you, don't worry.
I don't really agree. The problem that we actually face is that most of our parents are illiterate. So they don't actually understand the value of money right now. Like if I say I earn 15,000, 1,000 to my parent is something huge. Like they go like 15,000, a whole 15,000. What do you do with that? And then they start telling me that they are gonna have to protect me because if I'm earning so much money, they're gonna have to take it because I'm gonna end up doing drugs, getting drunk. Yeah, like African parents make it look like they are protecting us. They make it look like they are loving us. They're actually covering this whole thing in the term spirit of humanity. But when it's actually a burden, and I think they know it, but maybe for their own conscience and to try and convince us otherwise, they call it humanity.
Okay. Do you think our parents, relatives, sisters, uncles are aware of the things that we're discussing here?
It can be something that they're aware of, that actually it is happening, it is becoming a burden, but they're just not confronting it.
How do we make sure that our children are not here with another Edith Kimani discussing the same thing?
I mean, it's difficult. So the first thing is to accept that do you want your children to be paying you black tax 40 years from now, right? And if the question is no, right, how do you get to that point, right? How do you get to a point where you are able to say that the child that I'm raising is going to live a lifestyle where they don't have to pay me back in any way, right? I think we need to start thinking differently about, again, how we think about this word tax, right? If you think of it in the normal way, right? So government says, here, we're going to take money away from you, and if you take this money away, we'll give it back to you in one way or another, right? But if we give you a tax cut, right? You can do something extra with your money. What would you do otherwise? Would you not give it to your family if you didn't have to give it to your family? The other question is, do you have to give the money back to your family in the terms of money? Does it have to be 3,500 Rand that goes into their account every month? Or can you say, this money can only be used for education, to teach the kids in the family, to make sure that their matric is covered, they've got all their school textbooks, it's not for groceries? Can you say, I'm going to put it in a savings bond, right? So even though it's going into an account, you're not feeling it, the interest that you get will pay for the family in the long term. And are we thinking about that? Because if we're not thinking about that, we're going to end up in a situation where our children will be lecturing us to say, but Dad, why am I still paying this tax? And if we don't figure it out now and take that responsibility, because no one else is going to do it, right? You're the one who's earning the money. No one else is going to tell you how to make your money, what to do with it besides yourself. And if you aren't able to think about ways to say, how do I stop myself paying black tax by ensuring that my family's in a situation where they don't need black tax, right? And then to ensure that in the future, my family doesn't need to have black tax with my kids and all.
Okay, so
yeah, that's pretty good. So basically, what I heard he's saying is break the cycle in a sense. Not everybody's going to think to do that, but for the ones who want to kind of like get from out of this mindset where they don't have to be in the same position, like you said, 40 years from now, your child's looking for the same hands. You know what I'm saying? It's basically breaking the cycle. That's what we would call it here. For instance, you may come from a family who may have a high blood pressure history, or so you might want to go into a lifestyle where you only eat certain things, or you may have a, whatever it is. You just want to break the cycle of it and get into a lifestyle where you can be comfortable enough to live it, where none of these worries are a problem anymore.
Right. Because how are we gonna end this?
Break the cycle. Yep.
I put myself in there. I'm not talking about y'all. I put myself in there, because listen, this stops at me.
Right. And it's always that one person in the family who says that, you know what, I'm going to go out for the change. I'm going to go out there and work harder and make sure that we don't have to go through what we have been seeing after generation in our family and our parents and grandparents and such on. And I think that's just fairness. People have a choice. And I think that's just fair. If we want to go out, and now again, it's not an easy thing. Right. It's always difficult because we have our own battles where we say there's certain things that we want to see differently, and then we had to go through a lot of bumps and bruises and speed bumps and hills and valleys, but we got through it. Right. And that's just the result of seeing a difference and wanting to change
and breaking the cycle. And I always say you'll never grow higher than you know. You're gonna learn from your mistakes and go speak to somebody who knows the topic better than you. The older gentleman was talking about financial planning. Baby, y'all going out there taking out loans? I'm a person, I'm scared of loans. Listen, if I don't really need it.
That's like being a kid and then you get a certain age one day and you're ready to start building your credit. Right. And you come to find out that your credit has been used. You know what I'm saying? So now
that's
you gotta
our black tax.
Possibly. And now you gotta go into the world. And it's hard to get a cosign. It's hard to buy a vehicle. It's hard to get a house. It's hard to get a loan because your credit is shot.
Before you even became 18.
Yeah. So I think we just hit it on the nail. It took a minute. It took a minute.
I know we're not the only ones because every time something come up on social media, we're all relating to it. And I'm talking about Americans now. Yeah. Where parents use our social securities to get different things
because of the times, history, seasons. You understand? But
the time, our parents were what? The civil rights generation.
Yeah.
Our parents was a civil rights generation.
You said 19s. That sound like way back.
No, but seriously, now I made a connection. That right there, you made a connection.
Nah, but you called it out though. You screamed it.
Because you know the idea, the light bulb.
I saw it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry, y'all. Excuse me.
A little bit more assertive, rethink ways of spending and stretching that money, and perhaps even sending non-cash benefits. How else do we break from the cycle?
It's a tricky situation, Edith, because there's a lot of issues around black tax. We're dealing with unemployment. How many students graduate every year and they're not employed? So if you're saying that I must have financial literacy, to what? What do I have to be able to have that financial literacy to? if I don't have a salary and I have the pressure to help at home, and I do get that job that will pay me about 5,000 rand, half of it is probably going home to assist at home. I still don't have enough money to save. Yes, ideally, in the real world, we can come back to black tax by saving. But what do I save if I'm still dealing with the issues of unemployment? Because there's a lot of issues. There's issues of unemployment, it's issues of poverty, it's issues of our injustice of the past. We can possibly blame a whole lot of things, but the reality is, do we have enough money to save? Realistically, yes, that is the way to go, to be able to save so that the next generation is safer. For example, the reason why the black tax is like we're recycling black tax. For example, I was put through by my brother through school, and I'm also paying black tax now. So it wasn't, he did not solve the problem. He assisted me, but the black tax keeps circulating and rotating. So if I don't save, yes, if I don't save, then my son should look after me when I'm older because I don't have enough money to save for my pension. Yeah. So can we come back to that at this stage? I don't think so.
Okay. Let me finish with Sia, because you started by saying that this is a difficult situation. It's not always easy to say no. But after this conversation, do you feel like you have more agency when it comes to this issue?
Yeah, I do, but at some point I do not. Because we come from different families. Some families can understand when you say no. But in some cases, I'm going to go back what Sir said. Some of us are actually irresponsible. Because you get your money for the first time and you're like, oh yeah, I must have an expensive car, I must have an expensive apartment. You forget that you have to help up at home. Then when you think in the month end, you're like, oh no, I made all this, but you can find cheaper things that you can actually use that money to. So you can have money to save and give to your family at the end of the day. So I do have, but I do not have. Because at some point it depends on how much you earn and how well you use that money at the end of the day.
Okay, so can we get over this phenomenon of black tax? I wanted to conclude and then I saw a hand, and I'm not one to ignore anyone.
Okay, so I feel like you have to focus on your immediate family so that you don't have to stretch your budget. So focus on your mom, your dad, your kids, and then other relatives. I don't know, but I don't feel like they have to depend on you. And then it's something else when you say no to your mom and dad than when you say no to your relatives. When you say to your relatives, it's understandable. They will have to understand that you don't have money. But to your mom and dad, then you have to make a plan. That's what I feel like.
Okay. Well, the question was asked, can Africa overcome the so-called black tax burden? And I think the conversation here has told us that maybe and maybe not. Either way, thank you for watching.
All right, man, we're going to stop right there, bro. Lord. First of all, make sure you guys check the channel out. Man, here's a breather. That was a lot.
I don't even have a conclusion. I don't have a conclusion.
I guess at the end of the day, for the people who feel like breaking the cycle is their journey, it is difficult. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you won't have all the answers, but you will get over it, and you will be able to learn from your mistakes so that next time you come across it, it won't happen again, and you know exactly what to do. And I like what she mentioned as well. Maybe you don't have to give it to every sibling and relatives that's in the family. Just focus on who you can and work that way. And then you have your nose. People just not going to do it.
Well, was anybody successful in the no? Because everybody said I tried.